Coming off of last week's convention, I mean, we're all happy you're here, motivated, ready to learn, and most importantly, take action. For those of you who are new, the City of Alameda Democratic Club is the local organization for the California Democratic Party. For 40 plus years, we're one of the longest running Democratic clubs in the East Bay. We work to ensure our party values are represented in our leaders at the national, state, and even here at the local level. But we are also a resource to Alameda Democrats on what and who they're voting for. I suggest you join our mailing list, sign up to join the club, make your voice heard, visit our website, alamedademocraticclub.org, for activities and events to get involved in the coming months. I want to issue a few thank yous before we turn over to the program. First and foremost, Umesh and Avani Patel, who are sitting in the back of the room for they've invited us to use this beautiful new space, and it's really part of their mission around building community around sustainability and equity. So thank you both so much. To Evan Schwartz, our video production guy, bringing the experience to those who can't be here today. To Wyeth McAdam and Magali Rosario for helping with the logistics, the strategy for this event and many more. And then, of course, to Jeannie and the ladies of All Rise Alameda. This whole program stemmed from their recent Celebrate Democracy event. So thank you so much for the continued partnership. And then the three delegates who will be here shortly and are just getting off airplanes from Chicago to come share their experience with us. Now, with all that said, I'm happy to introduce Jeannie Egbert, who is a local activist with All Rise Alameda. She has spent her time researching Project 2025 and what we can expect with another Trump term. So I'm happy to pass it over to her.
Thank you all for being here. I think it's very, very important that every voter know about Project 2025 because it is our future if we get another conservative administration. What I'm going to tell you tonight is what the far right wants to do and how they're going to do it. So from the homepage of Project 2025 website, building now for a conservative victory through policy, personnel, and training. Our goal is to assemble an army of aligned, vetted, trained, and prepared conservatives to go to work on day one to deconstruct the administrative state. Now, what they mean by deconstruct is replace, and what they mean by the administrative state is our federal government. Project 2025 is a 920-page comprehensive instruction manual for the next conservative president to take over the entire executive branch and wield much more power than presidents have in the past, based on the unitary executive theory. It was developed by the Heritage Foundation and is supported by more than 100 conservative organizations, many of whom receive funding from the Koch Network and Leonard Leo. The Heritage Foundation is creating, right now, a government in waiting that can take charge on day one and start issuing executive orders and directing legislation. Project 2025 is written by and for Christian nationalists and is funded by the fossil fuel industry, so you will see those influences throughout the plan. The mechanisms for achieving their goals include impoundment and Schedule F, and I'll talk more about those. After the director of the project, Paul Dans, was forced to step down by the Trump campaign, the president of the Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts, said, Project 2025 will continue our efforts to build a personnel apparatus for policymakers at all levels, federal, state, and local. So they are expanding their scope beyond the federal government to all levels of government. This plan is our future if Trump wins election in November. It is centered around policy, personnel, training, and a 180-day playbook. The playbook is secret, but that team has written executive orders and legislation to implement the plan. So let's talk about policy first. Dr. Kevin Roberts said in a recent interview that abortion is not health care and that he wants to institutionalize Trumpism. This is a long-standing project that's important to understand. It started in 1979 with a document called Mandate for Leadership. The website claims that Reagan instituted half their policy goals. Project 2025 is the latest iteration of the mandate, greatly expanded to include more methods to implement their desired policies and regulations. One example of their success is our current Supreme Court. The court is not mentioned in the Project 2025 document because it has already been captured, as attested to by unlimited dark money in politics, unlimited guns on our streets, and immunity for Trump. So I'm going to read a partial list of their policy goals. And what I'd like you to do is feel what it would be like to live in this America. So their policy goals include eliminating the Departments of Education and Commerce, replace public schools with a system of private schools. And why would they do that? Religion can't be taught in public schools, but it can in private schools. They're going to eliminate free school meals. They're going to require schools receiving funds to reinstate ROTC, that's Reserve Officer Training Corps, programs, and require participation for high school graduation. They're going to defund the FBI. I don't know why. They will allow the president to give orders to the DOJ to prosecute his opponents. They'll close the border and implement mass deportations. They're talking about 11 million people. And I want to make a note, these are 11 million workers. These people are not sitting in somebody's basement playing video games. They're cleaning our hotel rooms and harvesting our food and staffing our nursing homes. These are workers. They will implement a federal abortion ban. Vance has said recently they won't do that. Don't count on it. They will ban contraceptives. They will eliminate no-fault divorce. They will revoke the licenses of press organizations that criticize Trump. They will use the Comstock Act to ban mail-order abortion medication and defund abortion clinics. They will roll back climate and environmental policies and promote the use of fossil fuels. One of the stated directives is that there should be no mention of climate change in any government document. They will dismantle NOAA because it is one of the drivers of the climate change alarm industry. Remember, NOAA gives us free weather reports and hurricane tracking. They will impound funds directed by Congress to support Trump's goals. Trump did this in the Ukraine case that resulted in his first impeachment. Impoundment was outlawed by the Congressional Budget and Impoundment Control Act of 1974 after Nixon abused the power. Trump will challenge or ignore the law. He already redirected military funds to use them to build his wall. So impoundment is something he's already done. He won't hesitate to do it again. They will promote one religious faith over all others. They will reduce the corporate income tax rate to 18%. They will reduce taxes on the rich and raise them for everyone else. They will ban pornography and imprison those who produce or distribute it. Now, that doesn't sound like such a bad thing, does it? But they include any LGBTQ content as pornography. So what we're talking about here is imprisoning teachers and librarians. Let me talk about 3 policy examples. Reproductive freedom. Red states are already implementing reductions in reproductive freedom. 21 states have limited or banned abortion, resulting in the horror stories that we hear every day. A national abortion ban will be passed if we get a Republican Congress. When you require a mother to almost bleed to death in the parking lot of a hospital before you allow her to be treated, you are pro-death, not pro-life. IVF is already under attack, as we saw in Alabama. They've already tried to outlaw mifepristone. That was a case that went to the Supreme Court, and it will be banned under the next conservative administration. Contraceptives will be next. Next policy goal, Christian nationalism. One of the guiding principles of Project 2025 is Christian nationalism. This is already being put in place in Louisiana with the Ten Commandments bill. In Oklahoma, the state superintendent of schools mandated that the Bible be taught in grades 5 through 12. More than a dozen states have introduced bills to put chaplains in public schools. School voucher programs in red states direct billions of taxpayer dollars to religious schools. This is shoving one brand of Christianity down the throats of everyone. One of the promises this document makes regards the blessings of liberty, but it immediately restricts our liberty to the values of far-right Christian nationalism. On page 13, it says, quote, "When the founders spoke of pursuit of happiness, what they meant might be understood today as, in essence, pursuit of blessedness. That is, an individual must be free to live as his Creator ordained, to flourish. Our Constitution grants each of us the liberty to do not what we want, but what we ought. This pursuit of the good life is found primarily in family." Who decides what we ought to pursue? Under this plan, it won't be you. It will be the far-right evangelicals. Third topic, the U.S. military. This program calls for banning transgender people from joining military service as they can today. It also restores the dishonest don't ask, don't tell policy for gays in the military. And most ominously, Project 2025 calls for the president to use the military against protesters exercising their First Amendment rights. I am a military veteran, and I can tell you that we are not trained to arrest people. We are trained to shoot them. And we don't shoot to wound, we shoot to kill. The Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, updated in 1956, 1981, and 2021, prohibits the use of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Space Force against American citizens. A conservative administration will ignore this law. We in the military have no rules of engagement for attacking American citizens. So, we'll move from policy to personnel, and here is where we get to the how they will implement this. You might be thinking that there are guardrails to stop a conservative president from executing this program. In the last Trump term, Congress, the courts, his own cabinet secretaries, and civil servants stopped his worst efforts. This will change on January 21st if he is elected. Under the current civil service system, any citizen can go to the government-run website, usajobs.gov, and apply for any job for which they have the skills. 2 million Americans currently work for the federal government, meaning they work for you. There is no party affiliation test. You are not asked if you are liberal or conservative. We don't know if our air traffic controllers, our food inspectors, or our warriors are Democrats or Republicans, and we shouldn't know this. Under a second Trump term, loyalty to the conservative cause will be the primary criterion for getting hired. The plan is to fire at least 50,000 civil servants. Schedule F is the way that they will do it. It will clear the way for thousands of new hires to take the place of newly fired, experienced civil servants who currently enjoy protection from being fired without cause. They will be reclassified as political appointees who can then be let go without cause and replaced by Project 2025 hires. Civil servants to be fired will be identified by checking to see if they have donated to Democrats. There is a button on the Project 2025 website, on the homepage in the upper right-hand corner, and it's a red button so you won't miss it, where you can apply to join a list of people who want these government jobs. The government you pay for, which should serve all the people, will be reconstituted by and for conservatives. You won't even be able to get a civil service job unless you pledge fealty to Trump. After Trump's loyal followers are in place, everything about the government we have always known will change, and it will become an instrument of the far right. They will use it to change regulations to match their conservative agenda. For example, Trump can do things such as telling the FDA to reverse its approval of abortion drugs and make them illegal. No interference from Congress or the courts will be allowed or necessary. Trump says he doesn't endorse Project 2025, and it is not his agenda. This is, of course, another lie. The Project 2025 team has produced 14 training videos for their new recruits. Of the 36 speakers teaching these classes, 29 were part of the Trump administration or campaign. And it's not just at the federal level. There are already court cases at the state and local level that seek to roll back liberal programs that help underserved groups. For example, San Francisco had a program to give Black and Pacific Islander women $1,000 a month for the duration of their pregnancy and for 6 months after, to try to raise them from the poverty which disproportionately affects them. A group called Californians for Equal Rights Foundation brought a lawsuit citing racial discrimination. They won in court, and the program had to stop. They are not just trying to take us back to 1950 or 1850. They are trying to take us back to 1750 and establish a new style U.S. government as a monarchy. The current Supreme Court has paved the way. The novel The Handmaid's Tale was intended as a warning. The far right is using it as an instruction manual. They have been pursuing a long-term project to remake American culture. We must also engage long-term in defending our freedoms and continually making our society more kind and more inclusive. This didn't start with felon Trump, and it won't end with felon Trump. We need to be in this struggle for decency and freedom for many election cycles to come. This election isn't just Harris versus Trump. This election will decide if we keep being the nation we have always been, or if we will change to become a fascist theocracy led by a dictator. Please talk to everyone you know on every social medium you use to spread the word about this horrific plan to every American voter. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. And I think it just goes without saying the seriousness of what is at risk with this coming election. So thank you so much. So what to do now? As Michelle Obama said, let's do something. Your best local resource for action here in Alameda is us, groups like All Rise Alameda, and others like Swing Left East Bay, or the Bay Area Coalition. And if you visit this table behind us, we have a QR code that goes to a resource sheet that the City of Alameda Democratic Club put together. We've put all the links that you can sign up for postcarding. We've put all the links where you can sign up for phone banking, canvassing, all the action that you can start doing right now, because early voting in some areas starts at the end of next month. Also, too, we have a list of newsletters to subscribe to. Ours, Mary Claire puts together a weekly list of actions that you can do.
Who's Mary Claire?
Oh, sorry, Mary Claire from All Rise Alameda. My favorite thing that this group does is they get together and go out to parts like Tracy, Patterson. I mean, they are out there working to flip the House, retain the Senate, and they are on the ground doing the work. So thank you guys, and please join them. All right, so to switch the tone a little bit. Next on the agenda, so I hope everyone had a chance to watch the exciting historical convention last week. And I'm happy to invite some of the delegates who represented Alameda while they were there in Chicago. I think a couple of them are okay. A couple of them are still on their way. But for now, I'm going to introduce Rocky Hernandez, who is our regional director for the California Democratic Party. And yeah. So what we were most eager to hear about is in Chicago, what was one highlight, one surprise, and one takeaway from your experience?
That's it? So, Rocky Fernandez, I live in Oakland, and yes, I'm the regional director for the state party for everybody here, from here all the way down to San Jose. And this was my 6th convention that I've attended. One of them was virtual. I will disclose that. And it was my 4th time as a delegate. And so it was a pretty amazing experience. You know, I know to show up on Saturday because the things start on Saturday. There's a media party you get to go to, meet a bunch of like bigwigs, things like that. And then every day it gets busier and busier. You get tireder and tireder. You have to show up to the arena earlier and earlier. So it was a blast. The energy was like through the roof. I don't know. How did you guys feel about that? Yeah, right. I mean, it was exciting. Just a month ago, we were kind of like, "Ooh, we're gonna go in there. It might be a little rough," but it was just like through the roof. The energy. You know, Tim Walz, amazing pick. Very happy about that. And Vice President Harris just kind of knocked it out of the park. Wait, what were the 3 things you mean?
One highlight, one surprise, and one takeaway for all of us.
So for me, the highlight was a friend of mine got me into an event for the bigwigs who give lots and lots of money, not me, to the campaign. He got me into Wrigley Field for a very, very like special event. And you go in there, you get to like eat, drink, you know, charge you anything, things like that. I by the way, I showed up early. I went to a Cubs game on Sunday because I had never been to Wrigley. Wanted to see a game. It was amazing. They beat the Blue Jays. I was nonpartisan in it. I had my Stell shirt on for all the A's fans in town. Right. I got a couple Let's Go Oaklands while I was there. But I got to go to Wrigley Field a second time with no fans or anything going on. And they actually were going to let us do batting practice. And so we ate, drank, all that stuff. We were standing in line for batting practice, got to meet some people. Senator Padilla was standing right in front of me with his kids. And we're moving. We're almost at the front. And who walks in? Doug Emhoff, the night after he had given his speech on the floor, right? And he's going and shaking everybody's hand. He got a photo with me and my friends that were there. Nicest guy in the world, by the way. And then he goes up and he starts to like, you know, he takes the batting practice. And I'm like, oh God, you can't miss 3 pitches. All of a sudden you can't swing and a miss in front of anybody, you know, right in the middle of a presidential election. And sure enough, he fouled off like 3 balls and then he got one, knocked it pretty much out of the infield. None of us were going to, you know, do much more than that. The big problem was he started to go with a bunch of his supporters out on the field and they shut down the batting practice, right? And because they were worried one of us was going to hit him with the ball, I guess. And he was way the heck out there by the ivy on the walls. And we're like, we asked the Secret Service, we're like, none of us are hitting it to deep right center. Like, none of us have that capability. Can we just hit? And they like shut it off. So we didn't wind up getting to actually hit. We took photos as if we were going to hit. They let Senator Padilla and then the other kids hit. And, you know, but that was probably the highlight of the whole thing. I think maybe it was a surprise. That was another one. A surprise was just how amazingly unified and excited everybody was. I mean, there were some protests, and I think that was important because there's a lot of really, really rough things that are going on in the world and tragedies. And so people needed to be heard and spoken. But it was, I think, the energy that was even higher than I expected to be there, and the unity that was there, and the excitement for the ticket to move down. And you know, I go to conventions not just to hear all about our presidential nominee or vice president. It's about seeing who the next stars are that are coming up, right? I was in the hall in 2004 when Barack Obama gave his amazing speech. Chills down the spine still. Like, those are the types of things I go for. And so I was really impressed with like Senator Warnock, Assemblymember Gallego, who's going to be our next senator for Arizona. Go knock on doors if you want to. And I just thought, wow, everybody's really, really happy. And we just went with a lot of energy. And like I say, I've been to 6 of these. And maybe the Barack Obama one was the only one in 2008 that really kind of rivaled the spirit of it. What was the other question you need? Takeaway. I think we have a lot of work to do to talk about what our values and policies are. I do think that it's challenging because it's a very short campaign now. We talked a lot about Project 2025. One of my signs that I brought was sorry, I know we have a camera here, but you know, voters of tomorrow, they get to be a little wilder than the rest of us. And we have to inform people about what's really going to happen. You can't throw 2025 out at somebody at the doors and say, you know, you got to be afraid of this. Nobody knows what the heck that means. So we have to actually explain what the agenda is that we're threatened with, and also the one that we're trying to put forward. And I am excited that Vice President Harris probably has a little bit more freedom to talk about the things she wants to do. We remember her campaign from 2020, and it's tough to do when you're a vice president, but when you're the candidate, you get to talk about the bigger picture. And, you know, I'm a pretty lefty progressive myself. I was a Bernie delegate the last 2 conventions. So I'm excited to see her get to talk more and more about things and how we know I have to go out and communicate that, because a lot of people don't know her well. They don't know her policies or what she's going to do. So the takeaway is we got work to do, right? And we got work to do here at home in Alameda. We got work to do out in the Central Valley to win congressional seats back. And we have work to do in Nevada and Arizona. For those of you who get to go, I'm excited. I always go to Nevada every 2 years to really get out there and sell the vision, sell the picture to voters, and make sure that they're invested, not just at the top of the ticket, but down the ticket and at the bottom of the ticket, because that's what we forget to do, is sell everything else. There's going to be some people that, you know, I have a really good friend. I cannot convince him to vote for president because he is conflicted about what's going on in the Middle East. But I'm like, well, you got to vote for Congress. You got to vote for city council. You got to vote for mayor. All that stuff matters too. So I don't want to undersell things, but there's a win for everybody. There's a candidate for everybody. And I want to, you know, share that with you. I could bore you. I was going to do a whole routine about you know, kind of like Carrot Top, share all the crap that I brought from the convention. I'm taking it all home to my wife's chagrin. But one thing I will share with you is you really have to defend your seat whenever you're a delegate, right? You get your badge every single day. You only get it for that day because they don't want you holding onto it or giving it to somebody else or anything like that. So every morning you have to show up before 8:30 and get your pass, or you're not going to get in that day. And then once you're at the convention, in the hall, you have to make sure your shirt, or your seat rather, is defended. If you go to the bathroom, whatever, you have to make sure you can get back in. At a certain point, like once the big heavy hitters, the last hour are coming in, they close off what they call the bowl, right? Where all the delegates are, all the rafters, whatever. But the bowl, they close off. So you can't leave for the last hour. You're not going to get back in. And so after the first day, and I was 4th row, got on TV a bunch of people tweeting me, texting me, we saw you on TV. I decided to go ahead and take a little bit of inspiration from the Golden State Warriors when they're in the playoffs, right? You show up and there's t-shirts on all the different seats. So I went and took one of my shirts, and I made this shirt. And I draped it over my seat so everybody knew exactly who was sitting there, who they were taking it from. And no, ushers, I am coming back. So, not sure if there's any questions or whatever. It's a lot of fun to grab all the signs, that you see that are getting waved. Thank you, Joe. Obviously the Harris Waltz. You bring all that type of stuff back, but it's an amazing experience. Hopefully everybody gets to experience it once, and I'm sure. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, next up, we have the honor of having Alameda County District Attorney thinking about one AC prosecutor who is heading to the White House, and having the Alameda County District Attorney here seems like a nice connection. So, ladies and gentlemen, Pamela Price, thank you for coming. And longtime Democratic Club member.
Yes, I remember years ago being asked to come and speak at the club a long time. So good evening. My name is Pamela Price. I am your elected district attorney. And I did go to the DNC. And I went in an unorthodox way. And as I wrote to people, I didn't go for the politics. I wasn't a delegate. I went for the history of it. When, as Rocky pointed out, we were all sort of kind of trying to figure out, like, what's going to happen. Joe has got a lot of problems, there's a lot of controversy. And then Joe said, I'm out. And Kamala was in. And I knew, like, oh my God, this changes everything, right? And I was on the call the night, there was a Sunday night call. There's an organization called Win with Black Women. They have calls every Sunday night. I get these things every week. I rarely get on the calls because I don't need to be on the calls. But that night, I got on the call. And I called my sister who was in Arizona. And so we were she was listening to the call as I was listening to the call. And you probably have heard about this call. It was 44,000 Black women on this call. And I kid you not, they started calling roll call of every woman on the call. And it was like, this is crazy, right? Like, it went into the night. But in the middle of that call, it hit me that I wanted to go to Chicago. And so I said to my sister, you want to go to Chicago? She said, why not? Let's go to Chicago. So we immediately, while we were on the call, started making hotel and flight arrangements, like hurrying up before these people get off the call, right? So, because when 44,000 Black women get off the call, there's not going to be any more room in Chicago. So we literally made our reservations and did what we had to do while we were on the call. The call literally went till like 1 o'clock in the morning. It was crazy. But I was in Denver in 2008 when Barack Obama was nominated. I was on the floor. Again, not as a delegate. So I confess to you, I go to these things as a bandit, okay? So I didn't have the nice seat. I did have credentials, but just don't ask how I got them, but I did. And so we were there 3 of the 4 nights. But again, when Barack Obama was nominated, actually Barbara Lee got us credentials and I was on the floor in Denver. And that was an amazing experience. And so having done that, I knew, like, oh my God, I got to be in Chicago. So we make these arrangements and we get to Chicago on Monday. Excitement. And as most of you know, I, unfortunately, for better or worse, in Alameda County, I usually have a security detail that goes with me. Well, security was so tight in Chicago that they said, your inspectors cannot come. And literally, when I got there, I connected with District Attorney Kim Fox, who's the District Attorney of Cook County. And her inspector told me they would not let him into the convention center. So security was everywhere. We saw the Secret Service, and I was assured that I would be absolutely safe because everybody who was coming was needing to be safe. And it was true. It was challenging for us, all of us, the regular people, not the big shots, to get into the convention center. Monday night, we were on the buses. It took us literally 2 hours. And then we were standing in the line for probably 45 minutes just to get in. Once we got in, we found seats, and we had floor delegate passes, but we didn't go on the floor. We just kind of roamed around. But it was so exciting. The energy in the place was just fantastic. It really was off the chain. My sister and I went in together. We sat with the Iowa delegation one night. We sat with the Minnesota delegation another night. And everybody was like, where are you from? Where are you from? One of those kind of experiences where you just know, okay, we're all here from somewhere. And we're all here as Americans, and we are here as millions. We knew millions of you were watching because we're all making history. So it was really fun. My highlight was I was on the street outside the convention center, and my sister was looking for paraphernalia. She bought all the paraphernalia and the signs and did all that. I was just like, I'm here. I'm going home soon. Okay. And so she was shopping, and the lady that she was looking for some shirt or something, and the lady said, there is Opal, I think Jackson, the grandmother of Juneteenth. And she literally was she's in a wheelchair, and they were going down the street. So we ran down the street and asked her daughter, can we please just speak to her and just talk to her? And her daughter said yes. And so we got to talk to her. And then, as fate would have it, while we were talking with her, there were two young women from Alameda County that ran up and said, DA Pamela Price. like this is stupid, right? So they took a picture, and I said that. They took a picture. There's me and Miss Opal and two young women who are from Alameda County, and they were just thrilled because I told them this is who she is. So that was such an amazing thing that happened, just random, right? And so that was like Tuesday. We took a break on Wednesday because there were parties everywhere and you could watch them. The watch parties were everywhere. So we did a watch party on Wednesday, and then we went back on Thursday, and it was amazing. I mean, the night for me when the Obama spoke was just magical. When Hillary spoke, it was magical. And I was not a Hillary delegate. I was a Bernie delegate. But the kind of coming together was so apparent. And as someone said, even as we listened to Hillary speak, we realized what an opportunity we had missed and how important her place was in history that was now making this history. It was so clear that you could see that. So that was really nice. It was really special to see that and to be a part of that. And then to be there that Thursday night was just, it was just incredible. The energy was off the chain. Standing room only. We were told before we got there that they had literally had 10,000 more people than they had seats. And I think it probably was true because there's just people just standing around. You could not get anywhere close. We actually got on the floor, but we did the stupid thing. We left the floor, and then they wouldn't let us back in. So then at that point, we're going around in circles, like 4 levels. We're going around and around and around. We got to the top, and literally there were like 5 rows of people standing at the top just trying to see. And it was like, this is not going to work because literally the events took you till you didn't get out of there. You went in at 5, you didn't get out till like 11. So you knew, like, I can't, my sister and I was like, we can't stand here for 4 hours. That's not going to work. We got to find a place. So we ended up going back down. I think we ended up at the 2nd level, and we managed to get into a space where they let us through one of the alleyways, and we found a seat. That's all I'm going to say about that. So we had a seat, and, it was just very, very special to be there. The last thing I'll say, which was funny, was every night, at one point, my sister said, look up, right? And you could look up and you could see all the balloons that were like in the netting above there, right? And so we were like, when are they going to drop the balloons? And so the first night, no balloons. Second night, no balloons. Well, okay, Thursday night, they're must gonna drop the balloons. So we were like ready. When Kamala finished her speech, we were like, okay, balloons. And everybody's looking up, balloons, balloons. Like, whoever was supposed to release the balloons missed the cue, right? And so he was like, I know exactly. It's like, what are they doing? It's like, you had one job. You had one job. Release the balloons. What's happening? It literally, you had to wait for this person, whoever it was, and then the balloons slowly came down, slowly. So that was hilarious. And it was like the perfect end. It was just too funny because we were just laughing so hard. Like somebody just completely lost his job that night. So that's my experience. It was wonderful. I was honored to be there. I was not there in a representative capacity, but it was just good to be an American. And I don't say that often, but it was good to be an American. Thank you. Thank you.
Megan is the former president of the East Bay Young Democrats, and she's involved in the California Young Democrats, and she's a campaign manager, and so we'll hear from her. She is also a club member.
You're taking reverse last. Sorry. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Megan Imperial, she, her, hers. I'm also the campaign manager for Victor Flores for Bart, who I told him to scurry on over. He just had a San Francisco meeting. And then Jesse Edegin for State Senate. So just wanted to also plug those because I was staffing them at DNC. And that was my primary role, was to make sure that they were at all of the events they needed to be at. But I will speak briefly because I know that Igor is here as well. Speaking on if you ever want to go, similar to our lovely DA, you can go as just a regular person, and it was definitely an experience that was worthwhile, and I definitely would encourage folks for the next one to participate. And for folks who have ever been to a CDP convention before, if you've never been, it's about 2 to 3 days, and you can kind of get away with doing everything and relaxing a little bit. At the same time, DNC is not like that at all. It's 4 days of madness. As Rocky mentioned, we're picking up credentials at 7:30 in the morning, right on the dot. And you're also waiting for the wait list if you're not a specific floor delegate. So you have to join the wait list, hustle for credentials. That was also part of my job, was making sure that if anyone had an extra credential that I can get other folks in. You're kind of asking around, figuring it out as you go. We had all of the states had a delegation breakfast as well, which was really nice to have speakers. We had California delegation had Hakeem Jeffries come and speak with us. Was super fired up about that. Really inspiring, as well as we were able to really hear from also Latifah Simon, our future Congress member. So she was able to also speak at the DNC floor itself. So that was really exciting to see. But I think the biggest takeaway for me is to just really be in that room when Kamala Harris was speaking. As a woman of color, I'm Asian, I'm Latina, to see someone like her who is from this area, from the East Bay. Oakland was definitely represented, but all of the East Bay was especially represented. It's just so heartwarming to see that this could one day be someone that we know, someone that we care about and cherish, could be in that highest esteemed office. So it was just really a blessing to go and attend. Was not cheap by any means. So that's another thing, is if you ever want to support Young Dems and going, that's another great way for them to be involved, and just pass that along. And we are only 4 seats away from flipping the House. So, definitely get involved. Make sure that you're going out to Central Valley. 4 of them are in California, I believe, so we can make that difference. But I'm trying to get us going to maybe Nevada or Arizona or Michigan, trying to do something in the midst of 2 campaigns, and also brought some goodies along for you all to auction, raffle off at some point. So I'll wrap up, but thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. All right, next up we have our chairperson for the Alameda County Central Committee and now a Berkeley Council member. Congratulations, Igor. Come on up.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you all, and I feel very fortunate that I was able to find this place on 1% charge on my phone. I have lost my voice at convention, but you know what? Let's do this again. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. Yeah, convention was amazing, y'all. I seriously want to thank you for all the love. California was very much in the house. We were loud. We were proud. We were brash and a little obnoxious in the front of the stage. I wouldn't have known that we were on television had it not been for many of y'all's texts and Facebook messages and screenshots. But, you know, I have to say, this is not what I expected when I signed up to be delegate and was fortunate to be elected in CD12. At the time, of course, President Biden was on the ballot. And a lot of things happened since then. I got extremely emotional when I had an opportunity to, once he dropped out of the race, to vote for Vice President Kamala Harris and send that ballot in virtually. I am a Jewish refugee from Ukraine. The same morning that I cast my ballot for Vice President and soon, with all of our help, soon to be our President, Kamala D. Harris, the administration announced something that they had been working on for well over a year, which is a release, a prisoner exchange of hostages that had been unjustly and imprisoned under abominable conditions in Russia. That is the administration going to work for us every single day. As my friends and family members back in Ukraine are literally still fighting on the front lines of democracy, they owe they owe everything, including quite possibly their lives, to the Biden-Harris administration. And that's why I was extremely proud to be able to be there to support the Harris Votes ticket. Couple days or nights there that because there's about 300 events and they're all half an hour apart from each other and there's, you know, security, so always factor in half an hour. Maybe more if the bus driver has not been trained that there is a tunnel that gets you to the convention center, and if you don't know that, you're just circling around the block. Very, very long block of Chicago. So a couple nights I was a little late from some events specific to, there were some Jewish Democrat events. There were a couple of events specifically geared towards, the Ukrainian diaspora and celebrating folks that have been staunch advocates for Ukraine's ability to defend itself from despotism, with the help of course, the Biden-Harris administration. So those nights I didn't get a very good seat. I was actually standing in the aisle, and then I was just pretending to be one of the television folks, be like, yeah. And then they would be like, hey, what are you doing in the aisle? And then Rocky was super helpful, and a couple of people were able to get me into a seat, which was very fortunate. But look, certainly Chicago may have looked like a big party on TV. And there were certainly some parties, and I don't think there was a single night when I got more than 5 hours of sleep. It did get a little hard the last night, but it was still, because you have to make it out to the breakfast, because, I mean, where else are you going to get that experience to hear from all of these luminaries of Democrat? But you know what? This was also an opportunity for us to get mobilized, get organized. There were a lot of council meetings. I spent some time at the Climate Crisis Council meeting, learning about what we can do right now to elect pro-climate candidates. Because as Megan and probably Rocky, I would imagine he said this too, it's not enough to we have to make her story yet again this November, for sure. And if the passage of the IRA, the amount of time it took is any indication, we have to make sure that we keep a Democratic majority in the Senate, and that we win back those 4 seats, which that road goes through California. So I'm super excited to be back and be in community with all of you today. Look, we have less than 70 days, y'all. Hey, who here has heard about our United Democratic campaigns? I'm not going to spoil the fun, but the Oakland United Democratic campaign is having a kickoff, y'all. It is this Sunday at 1 p.m. And a little birdie just told me, it was a Democratic birdie, it was a bluebird, just told me someone high up in the DNC is going to be here. I probably said too much. It was a surprise guest. KBFD, kind of a BFD, yeah. Now, Thank you. Oh, man. So, thank you so much. When we fight, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much to our delegates for the DNC for speaking. All right, we're going to wrap this up. But a few key dates, as Igor mentioned, we've been talking a lot about campaign headquarters for us to go to do work, to phone bank, have events, write postcards. So there's a coalition between the Democratic clubs across us, Alameda, Emeryville, Piedmont, and Oakland. So they're calling it the UDC Campaign Headquarters. It's opening Sunday, 1:00 p.m. There was an RSVP link in the last newsletter, if you got it this week. Congresswoman Barbara Lee will be there speaking. And then, as he mentioned, a special guest from the Harris Walz campaign. September 11th, Wednesday, is our endorsement forum for City Council and other local offices. That's going to start at 6 p.m. at High Street Station. And then September 19th, which is a Thursday, we are partnering with Forbidden Island on a giant party to support the Harris Walz campaign. So if you like cocktails and coconut trees and fighting fascism.
I heard DNC merch might be.
Yep, we'll have raffling off merch. Forbidden Island is getting together a collection of tiki items. So look for more information in the next newsletter on that. But yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Wyeth. I am a Vice President of Membership of the City of Alameda Democratic Club, and I'd like to invite you to join us. Join our club. Find out what we're doing. Find out what's next. Hang out with us. Enjoy beautiful spaces like these. We're so grateful that this was provided. Magali, a special shout out to you for making connections. Really appreciate you. Also, I want to point out, Magali, if you could just wave at me. Magali has volunteered tonight to connect you with the kind of volunteerism that you're most interested in. So even if we don't have the answer for exactly what you want to do, tell us what you'd like to do and we'll help connect you, okay? So thank you everybody for coming. Don't forget to vote. Get one other person to vote if that's the only other thing you do, okay? Thank you so much. Thank you, Meredith.